I'm Chris.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Allison.
Welcome to our home. We were looking at this video and thinking to ourselves, we're planning a vacation in July, and where we had one planned. And now we're in the situation of, do we need to go? Do we not need to go? What are we thinking here? I mean, what's a good plan? And I know some of you have also had trips planned. Sorry about that. There's an Amber Alert. But there's lots of you who have had trips planned that have been canceled, and now you're having to reschedule if you're wanting to go. And we're just kind of wanting to see what everyone else is thinking and kind of kick around some of our thought processes on it. And so are you guys wanting to plan a trip quickly once Disney opens, or are you thinking, hey, I need to wait 6 months or a year or what? I guess so. Maybe what's the first thing? What is your time framing on when you're planning to plan your next trip? And so while you guys might write those answers in and kind of tell us what your initial thoughts are, we'll tell you some of our initial thoughts also. And so my kids don't really have a function in the money aspect of going to Disney, but they certainly have a function in the what do we want to do? What are our favorite things? Are those things going to be available? Those sort of things. And so they're going to kind of help go along with some of that. And, for me, hi, Andy. For me, one of our favorite things is to go and watch the fireworks. And I know at the start when they reopen, they're not going to have any of the shows.
Yeah.
And so, you got to ask yourself, is it worth going if they don't have any shows? Or is it worth going if maybe
the fireworks aren't?
If there's no parades?
Yeah.
If you're only able to get on half the rides. And so in that aspect, just because there's not going to be as much available, for me, kind of throws it in there into the idea of should we really go?
Yeah.
And so let's hear it from one of y'all's perspectives as even children or kids, young people, young adults.
Why don't you go first?
Since you're the youngest, what's your thoughts, Allison? I mean, I know you're not as big of a Disney guru as the rest of us might be, but you still like to go, and you've been missing it, you said. So is going back to Disney, do you think worth it or not worth it right off the bat?
Well, it depends on kind of who you are.
Yeah.
So
for you?
For me, I probably wouldn't for the safety.
Okay.
I don't want to get stuck in Florida or something. I don't want to. I don't want anything happening to me or getting the virus. I just want to play it off safe.
Okay. What about you, Cole?
Me, I'd probably say I don't think it's a good idea for me to go either.
Right.
I mean, I wrote a few things down. The crowds are probably going to be a lot. I mean, I know they have a limited capacity, but they're still going to be. It's still probably going to be really hard to even get into the parks whenever it opens.
Right.
And then not only that, the safety of it. I mean, this is a brand new thing Disney will have to deal with. So there's all sorts of safety concerns, and then
right.
We'll go into detail, I'm sure, later on.
We will.
What's open and stuff, but there's not as much open that I'd be interested in. So Becky
says, I'm planning on a trip for Disneyland in October, making sure to get refundable flights, etc. I've got a cruise January 2021. I'm thinking I'll wait until 2021 for Walt Disney World. And then she says, my cruise is out of Galveston, so I can drive.
That's cool.
So in that aspect, we also had a cruise planned, and it was in September. But we thought that was too soon for cruises ourselves, mainly because you're locked on a ship, and you've got a lot of people on the boat with you there. And, it's already kind of a haven for getting sick and a breeding ground for germs. So we pushed our cruise back to January also for now. And so we'll see how things are going come January. There's a lot of empty promises out there regarding this virus. I would say for planning a trip to Disney, and I'll give you my perspective real short and sweet, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the details that push this. First off, I think that Disney is going to have their hands full trying to figure out exactly what they are going to have to do to make it accessible and workable and functional in the way that we would all enjoy Disney. There's a lot of aspects to Disney that are going to be cut out for right now.
Yeah.
And so, I know when we go, we eat, in the park, like a lunch and then a sit down, a quick service and a sit down once a day. And so if you're cutting half your amount of people who are scheduled to be in the park down, I think it's like 30%. So if you're cutting it down that low, your dining is also going to cut. And are we even going to be able to make the cut? Because when we booked ours, there's a ton of people who were booked in July. I had a hard time getting the reservation as it was. And so all those people, along with all the Florida residents, and Becky, for you, when you go to Disneyland, if it were to be opening month, how many people are going to flock to the parks? I know this. They've opened up some shopping and restaurants and that sort of thing. And we were out in driving today, and we saw stores that were just piled full of people.
Mm-hmm.
The parking lots were full. They had lines waiting to get in. And so it may not be the entry onto a ride that's going to snag you, but the entry into the park. How long is that going to take? I mean, you got to stand 6 feet behind the next person. They still have to go through your bag and make sure you're not carrying some sort of weapon or anything like that. And so to me, those things, just the whole chaoticness of getting it figured out is probably going to mean I wouldn't want to go the first month.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone is going to be a nightmare. And then is it going to be something where that many people in that type of an atmosphere is going to be a breeding ground for this virus, and it'll elevate the amount of people getting it? Is that what's going to happen?
I mean, it may just be me, but this whole not being prepared thing kind of reminds me of like if you guys remember last year, there was like a Build-A-Bear pay your own age thing. I feel like this is how it's going to be like. Yeah,
that Build-A-Bear pay your own age thing, everybody showed up and they ran out of bears in like 3 minutes. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And about 3 hours, though.
Yeah, it wasn't quite 3 minutes, but it was real fast.
Luckily, we made it.
Yeah, y'all made it. Andy says, I would try to avoid large crowds of people travel to Disney from all over the world.
And then over that, she said,
Before
this is an interesting topic because I'm a nurse practitioner working on the COVID team at our hospital. Right now, there isn't a home run treatment.
Right. And that's the other thing is, people come to Disney from all over the world. It's not just your local hometown people. It's not just Florida residents. It's not just, people from the U.S. It's anywhere and everywhere.
Although they are supposed to open up like that, right? They're going to open up with people from the...
I don't know. I mean, I've heard that, and I've heard them say that they would like to do that, but I haven't heard that to be official yet.
Okay.
And I may be wrong. It may be official, and I just may not know. But either way, just opening it back up, when you get people with lots of money, which, I'm not saying everybody that goes to Disney has lots of money, but certainly people with lots of money do go to Disney, and they go to Disney, but they're not just going to Disney. They're traveling all over the world at different points in time. And so they may be in, other parts of the world 1 week to the next, and then in Disney, the following. Mm-hmm. Although they have lots of opportunities if it does open up that might be available. The crowds might be short. People may think just like I'm thinking and say, I'm not getting out there and chancing it. Mm-hmm. And the crowds may not be hardly at all. You might be able to walk onto your favorite rides.
That's actually an interesting fact about Walt Disney World. Because Disneyland was so crowded the first day, the first week of Walt Disney World was practically empty.
Yeah, people just didn't go because they thought it was going to be so full, and really it was
Not at all.
not at all full.
But
They thought it was going to be full. So speculation throws us all out of whack.
mhm.
But I will agree with Andy on the idea that just taking precautions is going to be important.
Thank you for the 4 likes, by the way.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
But yeah,
And so that's that aspect. Now, let's talk about finances. We'll kind of break it down into separate categories. Financially, it's probably going to be one of the cheapest times of the year to go because they're offering deals on hotels as it starts to reopen. Your flight, I mean, you can book a flight right now for unprecedented low prices. I mean, super cheap. I saw flights the other day. Let me think back. Southwest had some flights that were real cheap. And, Southwest, they have their own, you get the luggage and all that built in. And I think it was like $90 round trip. That's pretty cheap.
yeah.
With Spirit Air, I saw one day I could have booked them for like $39 for each ticket, and that's round trip. Now I'd have had to pay for our luggage, but that's cheap round trip flights. I'm trying to think of who all else. I mean, even United, they're pretty low. I mean, people are just biting for business. And so, to me, that alone, that's an aspect that has to be mentioned is the financial aspect. So for me, that is something that would maybe go, hey, maybe I should go. But as Becky, I think, mentioned, she got her a flight in October for pretty cheap. So, I mean, you don't have to go right now to get a cheap flight. They're having cheap flights all the time because they're needing that money to come in. They're needing that rolling check. And so, I think that's an idea, but I'm a little leery of going right out of the bag because, all the difficulties. Let me ask you this. What do you guys think? Y'all comment and let me know. Do you think they'll have in the park pin trading? Because I mean, honestly, if you've got COVID-19 and everybody's got to be 6 foot back, how could you in the park pin trade?
I don't think they will.
You get on the ground, you slide your pin over to them, and they slide your
I mean, and then you got the touching of pins with other people's touching of pins.
I think for a while, this is just my personal speculation. I think they might just for the first maybe year even, they may try and quit with it, and then the very next year bring it back.
Becky says she doesn't think they'll have it right now.
Yeah.
I think they won't have it for a while.
I think for maybe the first year or so they won't have it.
I think
they'll bring it back later on.
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of a.
Yeah, and Andy said good question, and then Becky said at least at first. I would agree with you.
To me, it's a tougher situation.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to offer the limited edition pins back in the park and not online anymore?
I don't think.
And the reason I asked that question is, I mean, honestly, that's what they're doing right now. But if you can't pin trade in the park and you've got limited capacity, Disney still needs to sell all those pins. And so they're going to want to push them out the door.
The question is, are they going to let people are they going to have people touching all your stuff at the very front?
They are. They do in Shanghai.
Well, then at that point.
I mean, they're wearing gloves and they're wearing masks.
Well, then at that point, I don't see necessarily why they wouldn't be able to trade.
Well, because you're not supposed to be within 6 feet of people.
So they're not allowed to be in how do they give you the pins then? I mean, your package or whatever they're.
Same way you get it at the store. I'm sure they got those sneeze shields and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See, Becky said they have a hand sanitizer between each check and masks. And you have to wear masks, and they have to wear masks. I know in Shanghai, everyone has to wear masks. Can you guys imagine wearing a mask in Florida in July all day or in August all day? Oh, my goodness.
I agree,
Using the
Becky.
same gloves for each check is pointless.
Right?
I
think that, Becky, every single time I go to a drive-through or somewhere
Restaurant.
like that, a restaurant, and they're wearing the same gloves. And I'm like, why don't you just take those off and use some hand sanitizer throughout the day? You would do me more good than what you're doing. Because those rubber gloves are just as bad as their fingers if they're not sanitizing the gloves. Now, hopefully what they're doing is sanitizing those gloves, but my guess is they're
But I
not.
did go into a restaurant and I saw people in the bathroom who were workers washing their gloves in the bathroom.
Well, that's good. That's good. Becky says, my patients come in with gloves on, and I make them take them off and wash their hands, right?
Whenever I wear gloves, I always go and wash my hands anyway.
Yeah.
Andy said right, exactly.
And so, I think at Disney you're going to have that. And then, I've seen some of the stuff. They're talking about a virtual queue line. They're not talking about a virtual queue line. I've seen it done, out of Disney, both directions. They've talked both. They've shown how in Shanghai they've got X's on the ground where you're not supposed to stand,
I've
like
seen
big
that.
circles and the like no sign with the line diagonal through
It
it.
says like don't stand here.
Yeah, it says don't stand here, and then they've got designated stand areas for like 2 to 3 people or something, and that's where your group and party are supposed to stand in between and leave that 6-foot gap. But here's my thing: you're at Disney. How are you going to stop kids from playing with the Winnie the Pooh ride stuff? How are you going to stop kids from playing with the stuff in Mine Train where they can mess with all the diamonds?
How are you supposed to
I bet
do
you they would
the?
turn it all off, is my guess on what they would do.
I'm sure they may not have the sound effects on, but they're still just free moving items.
Yeah,
And there's railing. How do you stop people from grabbing a hold of that rail
I almost
and
wonder,
walking
Especially
through?
elders.
Oh, older people, I wouldn't be as concerned about. As an adult, most adults, think about the decisions they make. Children run through
True.
them rails. They're licking them, man. Seriously. They don't have any concept of germs
yeah,
or how they pass or anything of the sort. And a lot of adults have no clue of how, germs pass from one place to the next.
Also, when you go in the souvenir shop, they said that you're only supposed to touch what you're gonna buy, but
Yeah.
that's not how it's gonna work.
That's exactly
That's
right.
not how it works. Kids are in the stores. This is Disney World.
How are you going to only touch the thing you're going to buy if they've got them stacked up and they've got smalls, mediums, large, extra large, double X, and you got a guy like me with broader shoulders, and I'm like, oh, I need a 2X, otherwise my shoulders pull it up to a belly button. So let me pick all those other shirts up. Well, I've just essentially touched every shirt in the batch.
like you said,
And with
kids are gross. Present, company excluded, of course.
Oh no, they have no clue about how germs spread either.
I know.
I'm telling you.
I don't.
I don't touch anything when we go in the store. I mean,
I'm
literally,
touching everything.
I'll touch my phone and that's it.
I mean, we had to go to the store. We didn't have to. We went to the store today, and Allison's in the store, and she's picking up this item. It's a squishy. She's like, "This thing's so cool, Dad." I'm like, "Put that down. You don't know who's touched that thing." But
Probably lots.
that's
of kids
my
with it.
case in point. I mean, kids just don't think like that.
And then
They
if
don't-
you're trying to
they don't have
get
any concern. And if you're in the line and there's 2 or 3 sets of kids in a row, those kids want to play, and they're going to start playing with who? Each other. That's what they do now. You just can't stop humans from being humans.
Also, in the store, like if you're trying to get something in there and it's like a whole bin of things.
Talking about at Disney,
Yeah,
how
like
can you stop from touching the
yeah,
other
like those
bins?
keychains and stuff. You pull you gotta touch every single one when you're trying to get it out.
But I mean, not only that, but I was just going to say, with the whole store thing, they make products. Disney specifically makes products so that you'll touch them and look at them.
Yeah.
What happens whenever somebody's like, "Ooh, what's that?" And they look at it and they realize, "Oh, I don't want this," and they put it up.
I'll tell you what they'll stop selling so many of, and that's those snakes that they hold and twirl around like this over by.
Pirates of the Caribbean and Indiana Jones.
That's it. They won't be selling many of those if they're not showing kids how to work them and letting kids play with them. That whole that whole souvenir shop in the exit of Pirates of the Caribbean, that thing's a breeding house for germs. I'm telling you, I've never been in there without it being packed full of kids.
Crystal rocks that everyone touches.
Oh.
Yeah.
The swords.
With the light underneath all the gins, so it looks like they're shiny. Everyone's touching all of them.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I just don't know how you can get rid of all that. And what are they going to do? What's the ride queue? They're going to wipe down every single ride, the bars, the seats, the everything.
I mean,
You can do that
That's a
every
little
single
ridiculous.
round.
And how are you going to clean those bags that they put your items in? You know, you're there, you've got your pins on, or your hat, and you take your hat off and you shove it in that little bag on Mine Train. How do you clean that bag? Because everybody and their brothers touched that bag and stuffed their stuff in there too.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but I wonder if it would just be better for everyone to just wear gloves at Disney World. And then if they do that, they may not have to clean off.
But then
all
you
the
still got the
garbage.
problem. Let's say this. I'm the guy. I'm wearing gloves. I've reached up and scratched my mouth.
Oh, I guess that's
And then
true.
next thing I touch has got the same germs on it.
True.
I mean, the gloves don't prevent germs.
Same thing with the store.
She says, I would
Oh,
let
yeah,
Disney work out the
kinks
kinks first.
during the initial reopening.
Mhm.
Then hopefully by October, they will have good protocol for when you guys go, Becky.
I think
And
that's a
then
good
Becky said,
plan too.
hopefully, Andy. If not, we'll just postpone again.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I do want to take a trip late in the year. I'm not booking anything yet because I want to see how the first month of open goes
Yeah.
to see if it fires back up or what. But I would love to take a trip later in the year.
Yeah.
That's just me. But I'm a little skittish of hauling my kids over there and getting, what happens if you get there and you're on a 7-day trip, you get exposed to that stuff. About 3 or 4 days in, you start feeling symptoms. You can't get on a plane and ride home. I mean, you're stuck in Florida with your family, and then you can't travel. I mean, not without risking everybody else getting sick.
Yeah.
And I read an article about a guy who did that. He was from California. He flew to Disney, got to feeling sick. Then he got on the plane and flew home so he could not have to stay in Florida. But by then he had let it get so bad before contacting somebody that it ended up killing him. And he was like 35. And so, I mean, he had some issues and some health complications that made it where he was more susceptible.
Easier.
But, that's just one of those situations that happen.
I almost wonder if Disney will somehow figure it out.
Well, I'm sure they'll figure some
they'll
of it
figure
out.
something out to.
I'm wondering how Universal's going to work. Now, here's a few little
Universal
tidbits.
just copy them.
Universal's actually agreed to open some stuff before Disney, I thought. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a Universal person, so I don't really understand.
I'm pretty sure you're right because I saw somebody say that. I don't know if this is completely correct, but I think they're already open.
I think they've opened some part of it.
It was kind of like their version of Disney Springs.
Is it?
I'm
Okay.
pretty
Well,
sure.
Disney Springs, I think, has gone open now, or does it do it on the 20th?
20th.
And then I want to say in 2 weeks, I don't know if that was 2 weeks from yesterday or the day before when I heard this, or 2 weeks from the 20th, that the Disney-owned stores are going to start opening too. Because it's all non-Disney owned stores that are opening at first.
So the Disney stores will open up when?
Like 2 weeks after that.
Oh, okay.
It's either 2 weeks after that or 2 weeks from now. Because I saw an article on it yesterday, I think on Inside the Magic. And so, that's a soft way for them to get a grasp on how it's all going to work.
I think they'll figure something out. This is the Disney parks. It's their number one, other than television, like not movies, but like TV broadcasting. The parks are their number one financial support.
Mm.
So they're gonna figure something out. Even though they may be making only like a third of whatever they used to make, but they're gonna try and figure out something.
All right, here's another perspective. Andy says, COVID patients cannot have visitors. So if you're stuck in Florida, or even when you get back home, you're going to be stuck in the hospital alone. And that's true. We did know that. Our someone we know has COVID-19. I think they just got released on Friday from it.
And we did not get exposed, thankfully.
Well,
Well, we may have
I had gotten exposed to her, but
Well, not exposed.
I don't think I got it
didn't
because that's
get it,
been
we
2
don't think.
weeks ago, and I've got no symptoms, and I really didn't have that much of an exposure. It was a little bit of a distance between the two of us and just a conversation. But she's doing great, thankfully. She had got admitted into the hospital, and about 36 hours they let her go home and self-medicate there. I think they gave her the malaria medicine. I'm not good with the names of that stuff. Tammy's real good at it. But they gave her the malaria medicine, and that seems to have helped her. I don't know if that's a successful thing where Andy and Becky are at. I know y'all both work in the medical industry, but that's been helpful for her. But we only know that one person that's actually gotten it that we know personally. Now I know other people who know people, but we just don't know those people. And so, but that was all Friday. I think she got released, and so she'll be back to doing her normal stuff, I guess, now.
Which is great.
Yeah, which is very good. Very
Yeah.
good for her. But she didn't have any visitors, and she couldn't. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, I was going to also bring up one other thing that we really haven't even touched on. When Disney opens up, they're not going to have everything opened. So what are we going to, like, most of the things that are going to be open.
I know some of them. I know some things. I really don't know what's going to be open. I've just seen articles that said what's not going to be open.
Is it even going to be fun if we go? Is the real main question. And that's why I personally don't want to go as much.
I think right off the bat, you miss a little bit of the stuff that you would normally say makes Disney. So, like,
there's no character meet and greets.
There are
we
no
didn't touch that.
There are no character meet and greets.
Probably.
There are.
Are there?
But they're not done like normal character meet and greets. For now, and I don't know how long this will last, but character meet and greets are from a distance. And so, yeah, very similar.
Seriously?
I mean, really, the one I saw from Shanghai, Mickey and some other characters were up on top of a rail, and then the people were down below. And so that was the meet and greet.
Well, I didn't even see that.
And
It's more like a picture, not really a meet and greet.
Well, they're calling it a meet and greet, though. And so in that aspect, you can still have a meet and greet. But to me, that's like watching the parade go by and taking a picture as Mickey Mouse waves at you.
Wait, it's not even like it's not even a meet and greet. You just walk by, you take a picture, and then.
Well, he says hi or waves at you or whatever. He doesn't speak because the one I saw, they didn't have the animated.
Yeah, the
talking one, right? But he comes out and he waves at you hi, and kind of does all the movements and kind of to interact with you a little bit. And you talk to him from a distance, and then I guess they take a picture that's kind of forced perspective, maybe. And then
Mickey Mouse is actual life size.
There you go. And then that's how they did it in Shanghai that I saw.
That would seem awful to me to do a character meet and greet. It's not even worth it. Although I will say this, I bet you now those kids are scared of Mickey Mouse at that point.
Right. So Becky, Andy, y'all tell me, I know y'all are in the medical industry. Do you think that the masks on the face in July and August is going to just be awful? Or do you think that that's pretty manageable? I'd be interested to know from someone who wears them a lot more often than I do. I mean, I put them on when I'm going to mow the yard maybe, and that's not like N95s. And I don't know if that's what they're going to require or not. I mean, if they're requiring anything less, I just don't know what's the point. Maybe a slight point, but not much. But, when I put them on, they go under my glasses here across my nose. And then when I breathe, it just fogs up my glasses. And so I'm wondering, that would drive me insane all day at Disney. But if you're doing an N95 mask, I understand that those are like almost impossible to breathe through. And so it seems like you'd have people passing out right and left all day during the park in 102 temperatures. I'm just thinking out loud of how that might affect people.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm not a I'm not a professional in that field, so I really don't have a good way of saying how that is. I guess I could have bought an N95 mask. I know they say there's a national shortage of them, but when I'm in Tyler, there's
We went to Hot Topic and they were giving out.
well, those were not N95s,
Oh.
but they were selling N95s at a local store in Tyler for like $4 each. And so I wonder, I should have bought one just to try it, but I thought I want to leave those for any nurses or anybody who needs them. But Andy says, oh boy, that's going to be so hot. Wear an N95 for a whole shift, but a mask in July is going to be uncomfortable. Now, I've also heard that they will cause a rash on your face, like if you get too hot also.
I get that. I understand what that is like. It's kind of like, at least for me, sometimes, you know how sometimes when you suck on something and you, at least for me, even whenever I suck on a straw, my face hurts. Not just like hurt, but I can even get a rash from just sucking on something.
Right. Well, you get rashes real easy, though.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering about other people,
That's true.
how that would affect them.
Becky said, I find it miserable inside the air conditioning. I just have to wear a regular one most of the time.
And my glasses
Most of the time.
stay fogged up. When I have to put on the full COVID gear, it's terrible. See, that's what I was afraid of. And I think that when Disney does that, surely they're not going to be like everybody else can whatever mask you want to wear. I mean, I was out the other day in the store, and I don't remember the grocery store or where it was, maybe in Hobby Lobby. But somebody said, oh, I have to wear a mask. And they had this long bird beak mask like you would have seen during the plague.
A plague doctor.
And I thought, that's funny. But that's not helping anybody, because it was just like a paper mache one
Becky
or whatever.
said she broke out from one too.
Yeah.
I break.
I've heard that you can.
If you're sensitive like me, both emotionally and
There you go.
physically, you may get rashes. I don't now. Whenever I was at the school working,
Those aren't
I
the
worked
same
at-
kind of
I
masks.
know they're not the same kind of
That's why you didn't
but
break out.
I work for a school, and I would even get a rash from that type of mask.
Right.
At least it would make my face uncomfortable for a few hours, but
Right.
still.
Well, I think we've beat that dead horse long enough. That the whole, gearing up for and going through the park just to try and keep safe and keep other people safe if you happen to have it kind of thing with the mask, and it's going to be a nightmare.
Now I hear.
Those chickens are going crazy tonight.
Now we're not professional, like we're not doctors or anything. Of course I'm not. And she's not. But you're not
And
a
I'm
doctor
not,
either.
no.
But
Mom's not really.
but
She's not.
we're just talking. I just wanted to clarify that to anyone who's watching. I know
yeah.
it's not just.
Yeah, if
Becky
anyone
and
watches
Andy.
this in the future, we're not doctors. We don't know anything professionally. We're just thinking through
We've
the
just heard all
ramifications of stuff.
Yeah, and we've heard some of what doctors have said, but I was just going to bring up the point
So-
that most
And the
masks,
news.
what I've heard is, it's not more protecting yourself as much as it is for other people.
Right.
And if Disney doesn't provide like the N95
N95s.
masks, if they don't provide that, I would understand where they're coming from on that point. But
Yeah. I understand that they're going to have, when you come into the park, they'll have a place. I think they're providing the masks, but I don't know that it's N95s. But when you come into the park, you get a mask and you wear it all day. And then when you leave the park, you're supposed to discard your mask, and there'll be someone there that actually guards the discard masks. Like somebody's going to come through and try and take a mask out of the discard box,
And you have
I
to
guess.
rip them before.
And you're supposed to rip them before you toss them in. That's right.
I mean, I don't
And
understand
so-
why you wouldn't just throw them.
That alone makes me think back to that. Hearing that, that's probably not N95 masks.
Becky said, I think they're just surgical masks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which doesn't do that much for the whole spread of the virus, but
It
that'll
does.
be a lot easier to breathe through. I mean, I could suffer Disney like that. I wouldn't want to, but I could.
I mean, I don't see that many people at Disney just wearing masks for the fun of it.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and you know, I know that they're gonna have to do like on your rides. They're gonna have to have you set every other row and every other seat, is what I've heard.
Like splash.
So, like, unless you're a family, then you can sit in all the seats. But if you're not a family, and it's like me and Cole happen to end up in a single rider somehow, and there's seats for 3, well, there's going to be an empty seat between us,
I just feel like
which isn't 6 feet, but that's what they're doing in Shanghai.
I just feel like people are going to take advantage of that, really. I mean, what happens if a bunch of family members or a bunch of college students are going to Disney one day and they're just like, oh, we're going to mess with all these Disney people. We're going to say each and every one of us are just one individual person.
They might. I don't know. But
Dude, I feel like you could
I don't
really,
think people would want to do that too much.
I'm
but,
just saying like college students.
It would
who
be
are-
like this.
Well, they know, baby. You don't have to show them that. They can't see that, baby. She's saying that
These will be filled.
you'll have every other seat in like a ride will be empty. Every other bench.
Yeah.
So like when you're riding Pirates of the Caribbean, you'll sit on the front one, then you'll skip a bench, and then you'll sit on the next bench, and then you'll skip a bench. And even that's not 6 feet. So, but I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess, for the
Yeah.
protection.
Becky said, I broke out from one kind they supplied. I think they're just surgical masks. I bet they
We've already
The-
read that.
keep the single rider line closed.
I bet you're right on the single rider line. I'm almost
We
positive.
already read the other day.
Well, that would make sense.
Like on test track and things like that.
That would really stink for somebody who's just wanting to ride it if
And-
you're one person.
And I haven't heard a lot about, and we're not going to really tackle this too much, but just to throw the plug out there, I haven't heard a lot about what's going to happen with like Ratatouille ride that they were in the middle of.
All the
Oh, they
construction.
were near the end.
Yeah.
I know they weren't finished entirely.
But I'm just wondering, is that going to be delayed a long ways, or did that ramp up to production and now it's going to be ready sooner? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud.
I remember seeing the construction of Ratatouille in the gondolas.
And do
And
they
now it's near completion.
and do they stop the Skyliner every time to wipe down the inside to make sure
That's a
it's
good
clean
question.
and sanitized? Do they, you know what I'm saying? And every time
Disney
you
World's
ride,
so big.
every time you ride a roller coaster, do they wipe the seat down and the handrail down every single ride?
Disney World is so big. It's
How are they
gonna
going
be.
to do buses?
It's gonna
too?
be terribly
Ooh,
hard.
that's like an even scarier.
Yeah,
part.
how do you do buses?
I mean,
How do you do buses in that situation? You can't have people standing.
yeah, you can't have
You,
people standing.
you could only do every other seat. I mean, you'd cut your bus capacity down to less than a third.
Well, I mean, if you had big families go first, maybe.
But how do you do that? It's on a first come, first served basis.
Dang, that is like scary to me. Because I see so many just two people.
Yeah, if y'all have heard anything on how buses would run, y'all let us know what you've heard.
No, I mean, I guess gondolas, you don't have to wipe down anything in the gondolas. All you do is just sit down. Although, I guess you would only be able to have one family
That's the
inside at a
same
time.
as the ride, though. If you're just sitting down.
But
And-
you have the handles whenever you're gripping onto it. Like if you're going to if you're a scaredy cat like me,
Talking about on the.
like on rides.
Yeah, but on the gondola, you might be touching.
So
the seats.
Andy says less crowds would be so nice, but I don't think I would be able to actually relax and enjoy myself. I would just feel tense. And I think that would probably be a problem for me too. I'm kind of a little bit of a germaphobe, they say.
A little bit.
And so I would have a little bit of a tough time with that.
Yeah.
That would cause me some stress for sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
You know, and the little kids, run up to you and grab you or something in the middle of the park. That happens, just because they think you're there. They think you're their dad or something when they're walking, and they turn around and turn back around, and their dad or their mom's not there, and they run over to you thinking that's you. That's happened to me. I couldn't tell you how many times. And some kid looks up and says, "Dad," and I look down, and they're like, "Yeah," and I'm like,
Definitely not my
myself.
dad.
I don't need another one, you know. But
That's true.
anyhow, I just don't know how those buses would work. That's perplexing to me on how that's going to function correctly and actually work. Disney's great with buses, though. They've got a world-class bus system.
So,
To be honest, probably one of the best in the world in how it functions.
I wonder if
I
they'll-
couldn't imagine how the monorail is going to work. I mean, how many people can you actually fit in that little booth without being too close?
I'm wondering if they're just going to be able to where they set you and your family down on one side and then the other family on the other side, and that's it.
I don't know. Maybe.
Although there is that one space in between the other two
Right.
people. How
and
are
it's
they?
very thin.
Maybe they'll only have one
So,
person on
One bench per cart. I
Yeah.
mean, per section. I mean, honestly, here's my advice. I mean, this is take it with a grain of salt. But if I was going in July, which we've already talked about, I have plans, but I'm just waiting on Disney to cancel them because that's what's probably going to happen. If that doesn't happen and I were to go, I would rent a car, and I would pay my fee at the hotel every day, and I would drive my car to and from whatever park I was going to be in, and then I don't have to worry about how all that transportation is going to play out if I'm going right now
Yeah.
because of the kinks in that sort of a system. So that would be my advice to any of y'all. Now, like I say, take that at a grain of salt because they may have the greatest system already set up and have thought through it and know exactly how to work it.
And we're not doctors.
And I'm not as smart as Disney. Otherwise, I'd own theme parks, and I don't because I'm not.
Disney World is so big, I think it would be impossible to wipe everything down. I mean, it would be really, really hard.
I think I don't know how that'll all work either.
I don't know.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
I just, I think it's a touchy situation. I don't know how they're going to handle it. For us, those are our major concerns with it, to be honest. I don't know that I have too many other ones other than, like Cole said, we just don't know what's going to actually be open. Is there going to be, like I'll restate some we've already said, is there going to be pin trading? Because to us, that's a major part of our vacation that we enjoy.
I mean, literally, if they got rid of pin trading in general,
We would still go.
we would probably still go.
But it would not
but it
be as
wouldn't-
fun.
It would be
Like,
less.
I would
worth
understand why people would take off days. Like
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, I don't want to take an off day. There's so much fun you can do in the park. It's like it never stops because of pin trading for me.
Right.
But
If
then
there's no pin trading.
if there's no pin trading, I mean, yeah, of course I want to take an off day every now and then.
I mean, if they do Q line through your phone or something, almost like fast passes, that's amazing. Kind of like they do with
there are all sorts of rides that do it.
Rides of the Resistance.
Rise of the Resistance. And
Almost how they do that. I've heard that they're going to start doing that on every single ride.
then
If they
would
do
be
that,
awesome.
that's cool.
That would be
But what
awesome.
do you fill the rest of your day with other than going and eating and walking around? Because you can't shop and touch anything,
yeah.
and you can't pin trade, most likely. That's my assumption now. What else are you going to do?
I mean, can't shop. You could look at things.
I'm just saying, if it's all queue lines, what else can you do?
I wonder if
And
it's
so, I mean, Tammy could go stare at the Dooney and Burke purses.
actually.
She's over there.
Well, I've actually.
being all sad.
I mean, Mom brought this up.
But then you're only going to be allowed so many people within the store. And right now,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what Mom.
like
brought up.
we went to a Hot Topic, and you could only have 8 people in the whole store.
and they all had to wear masks.
I mean, granted, it was about the size of this room. The
Oh, it's bigger than this room.
it's a
Bigger.
little bit.
It's about as big as
Maybe our
trying to think of a
kitchen
store at
and this.
Disney. It's about the size of the Trading Post, Frontier Trading Post.
If they have 8
so,
Maybe a
people in
little
that
smaller.
store, I mean, it would be spacious. Don't
Oh,
get me
right.
wrong, but
but that's what the current guidelines in Texas are.
And what about those little customizing Magic Bands things with those screens and everything?
Yeah.
Everything like that would have to be wiped down.
Although I'll say this, it would probably be more sanitary than any other time of the year because of all the hand sanitizing stations everywhere. I understand they're going to put them at every ride. Before you get on the ride, you have to hand sanitize. When you get off the ride, you got to hand sanitize. Here's my other question. How many rides are you going to ride during the day where you got to hand sanitize that much? How quickly are your hands going to get cracked out and dried out and start hurting?
I mean,
that's just me saying those things.
I have bad problems with that too. Speaking of sensitive old Sally here, but
you call yourself Sally.
I've had it before where whenever I did the dishes too much and I washed my hands too much, I got cracked out in my hands.
That happens to me too.
Peels off.
So if we're not mentioning anything that maybe y'all think should be mentioned here in the process, maybe we've not thought it through and come up with one of those scenarios. But comment and let us know. Hey, y'all may not be thinking about this, and it could be a positive or a negative to the aspect of how it's going to be when they reopen. And so,
yeah,
I know Disney, in my mind, takes the extra step of trying to not get people sick, take care of people. Quit petting the dog because you're bumping the table. They take care of all that they can, and by doing that, they go the extra mile to make sure. I feel like that's why they stayed closed longer than Universal. I feel like, that's why they're taking such precautions. And I almost wonder, we're making a lot bigger deal out of some things than maybe need to be because, they're going to think through all that very heavily.
I'm sure that's like one of the major things they've been doing.
Oh, I'm sure.
At least the people who are running theme parks.
I think we should wait it out and see what happens and just see how it all plays out. And when it gets a lot better and this virus is like better.
You mean where they have a vaccine and people aren't transmitting it as easy?
And where it's not easily transmittable, like you just said. I think it will be better to go in that time for the safety.
Yeah, whenever they figure out.
She said, "Amen, sister." So I think Andy says here, "Oh yes, chapped hands is a huge problem for me with using so much hand sanitizer." I think that'll be a big problem, and I still don't think they're going to be able to address all the issue here because I understand that you can get the COVID-19 through your eyes.
Goggles. That's what we need.
So, are they going to make everybody wear goggles? And if you chap your hands, surely you can get it through your hands then. Because if they're chapped, that's open wounds.
Gosh.
Are you going to have to wear a hazmat suit? It's the same thing.
We'll all show up looking like there's been a 2319 in our yellow suits.
Well, we probably won't be alive by then.
And he said exactly.
Well, us.
We'll all be in our 2319 suits.
By 2050, we'll all be in biohazard suits.
I needed to use the restroom before I put on the suit.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah. And then I have a problem with using all that sanitizer because I feel like it kills our immune systems. Because it doesn't allow us to build a strong immune system, but that's my personal opinion.
And washing your hands is better.
There's no opinion.
I think washing your hands is way better, but that's just me.
Kills more
Andy
germs.
said, "Haha, good one, Cole." Someone laughed at my joke.
That's smart. It wasn't.
Cole needed that. Thank you, Andy. I'll send you some money. I'll send you some money on PayPal for helping him out with that one. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all. And if we've said anything crazy, comment and let us know. Set us straight. We don't mind. Just be nice about it.
We don't mind if you could criticize us, but don't criticize us too much.
Yeah, just be nice about it. Don't say anything too harsh. But hopefully Disney will open back up. They'll work those kinks out across the hot months of summer. Mm-hmm. And then when we roll into the fall, this influenza thing won't get even worse. It'll just kind of be and go away.
Andy said, "Enjoy y'all as always."
And we enjoy y'all, and hope to see y'all on Monday night. We're going to be looking at Tangled. That's right, Tangled this Monday night, and so that'll be at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And until next time, from our house to yours.